Money Arata. Graphics cards are in short supply on the market, and some rumors say that Bitcoin mining is to blame. This lack hinders the lives of PC gamers and professionals in graphic design, video editing, and 3D modeling. Now, in addition to finding it difficult to find graphics cards still on the market, the ones that are available now are more expensive. But it is not Bitcoin's fault. Those who mine Bitcoin have not used graphics cards since 2013. And by the way, there are actually several reasons to support Bitcoin, which is the only decentralized currency in the world. This decentralization helps the entire population, including computer game and digital art enthusiasts. This is not financial advice. Please read the full disclaimer before proceeding. There are two misconceptions. One, Bitcoin is just for speculation, and two, Bitcoin is responsible for the shortage of graphics cards on the market. In episode 17 of the Money Arata series, we note the difference between Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. When the media doesn't understand this difference, then the news is reported with many conceptual errors. For example, even when there is an issue involving other cryptocurrencies, the word Bitcoin is sometimes used because it is better known. It generates more clicks. And there are situations where the terminology accuracy is sacrificed to simplify the conversation for the general public. Now, even here, we're going to be using both the terms GPU and graphics card. Well, the two products have some technical differences, but there is very little practical difference for the purpose of our conversation. And there are two major misconceptions. Number one, graphics cards are being used for speculation with Bitcoin. And number two, that the Bitcoin miners are the ones who have caused this shortage on the market. Let's go gradually and start by clarifying the first error. The news argues that the graphics cards should be used for purposes which are considered to be more noble, such as arts, work, education, and leisure. However, the alleged overuse by Bitcoin miners is causing a lack of graphic cards for those true users. Is it so? Bitcoin miners are not just speculating. They're playing a very important role. Bitcoin protects lives and human rights around the world. It is a type of money that promotes social inclusion and cannot be confiscated, frozen, censored, and that does not suffer inflationary effects from the central banks. And all of this is possible because of the activity of the miners, providing security to the Bitcoin network, the most sound money ever invented. Now, I'll explain. Bitcoin is a scarce digital currency and without a central authority. As a decentralized currency, Bitcoin is not subject to the abuse of power by the controlling entities. And this means that Bitcoin cannot be devalued by an inflationary process either. The new Bitcoin units are not issued by a central bank. The issuance is carried out by the whole decentralized network itself. It follows clear and immutable rules. If anyone were able to easily create bitcoins, there would be an inflationary effect and the bitcoins would lose value. This is the logic of the law of supply and demand. If everyone could easily issue bitcoins, the currency would become very abundant, and the excess supply would bring down the value of the currency. To avoid devaluation, Bitcoin works through rules in the mining process. Network users themselves can receive new bitcoins, and these users must first solve some math problems. This rule helps to validate transactions in the whole Bitcoin network itself. The computing power required for mining varies. When Bitcoin first came to use, the math problems were simpler. They required less computing power. And at that time, it was possible to receive your rewards in bitcoins by mining just using your CPU, your central processing unit of just a simple home computer. But as Bitcoin grew, the mathematical problems became more unlikely to be solved and they required enormous computing power. And that is great, because the network becomes more secure the more computing power it has. Okay. So with all these arguments, we have already cleared up the first mistake, which is to say that Bitcoin mining is wasteful. It is being used just for speculation. The miners play a very important role, contributing computing power that gives security to the network. And this computer security is necessary because Bitcoin protects human rights. Let's now clarify the second mistake, which is thinking that the lack of graphics cards is Bitcoin's fault. It is not viable to use graphics cards to mine Bitcoin. Today, Bitcoin has the highest hash rate, which indicates a very high security. Between 2008 and 2012, Bitcoin was still in the early stages. Early miners used simple equipment to solve mathematical problems and mine new units of Bitcoin. These equipment included graphics cards and other components that were used also by gamers, designers, and video editors. Hence the anger that many gamers and digital artists still have today against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. You may blame Bitcoin for the lack of components for your PC games, for your professional computing, but the truth is that the graphics cards became useless for mining Bitcoin a long time ago. Anyone who was complaining about this these days is around 1 decade too late. That being said, remember the difference between Bitcoin and the other cryptos. For now, there are still people who use graphics cards to mine cryptos like Vertcoin, Monero, or Ravencoin. Yes, there are still other cryptocurrencies, these are the altcoins, the alternative coins, that are still being mined with GPU, graphics processing units. The GPU is a graphics processing unit, and because of that, it has a more generic function. And it is no longer viable to use it to mine Bitcoin. Let me explain why. At the current stage of Bitcoin, mining requires ultra-specific equipment, which helps to offset the costs and also beat the competition. This equipment is the ASIC, application-specific integrated circuit, and as the name says, the ASIC is a circuit created specifically for one type of application. The GPU has a more generic computing power used for a wide variety of calculations. Now, on the other hand, the ASIC specializes in Bitcoin, and that makes the ASIC more efficient with greater computing power for that activity. It is extremely expensive to be bringing together engineers and scientists and mathematicians and whole factories to develop an ASIC. But having this specific equipment means that the Bitcoin network now has superior computing power compared to other cryptocurrencies. And that is why Bitcoin has a very high hash rate. In technical terms, hash rate measures how much computing power a network has to be processing the transactions and ensure security. Now remember what we said. All of this helps to increase Bitcoin's computational power, which in turn increases security, which in turn increases the protection of human rights. And you can confirm Bitcoin's hash rate. You can just use different types of public tools, and the investors are also using the hash rate parameter as a measure of protection against attacks. With a high hash rate, Bitcoin ensures that it is much more difficult for a group of malicious people to take over the network. Ethereum has already decided to eliminate mining with graphics cards and will no longer be a problem for the market either. Ethereum was created in 2014, and for a long time, mining on Ethereum has depended on graphics cards, and that really caused a price increase and a lack of parts in the market. Mainly during the hype cycle of 2017, Ethereum was one of the main responsible ones for the disappearance of graphics cards in the market. Now, it's only natural that the traditional customers, like gamers and artists, were pretty annoyed. But the market adjusts to the demand. It didn't take long for the manufacturers to be producing graphics cards specific to mining cryptocurrencies like Ethereum. And at the same time, manufacturers also put locks on other graphics cards. These locks prevented use for mining and ensured that graphics cards on the market that were specific to gamers and the general public were being sold to the right people. And the good news for gamers and designers is that Ethereum will shift its mining process from proof of work to proof of stake. Today, we're not going to be entering into the details about each one of these, but you just have to know that the new process will require less computing power. The change in Ethereum mining will reduce the demand for graphics cards by the platform by up to 99%. And the cards that Ethereum miners are using today are probably likely to be sold on the market, on the secondary market, and this will help to bring down the price of the graphics cards that are used. These are just two examples of FUD. Now, there is much more that needs to be clarified. Whether you are a technology enthusiast, by playing games or working, you have probably read articles and seen videos criticizing Bitcoin as a great villain for the lack of graphics cards on the market. And in just a few minutes, we just clarified that this is not true. It is true that 1 decade ago, Bitcoin already used some graphics cards for mining, but today it uses very specialized and different equipment. The only currencies who still use graphics cards today are other cryptocurrencies who offer a lower degree of security. Always remember this, that Bitcoin is different from other cryptocurrencies. As we saw in episode number 15 of the Money Arata series, Bitcoin offers many advantages because it is the only decentralized currency in the world. There is a lot more of distorted information that wants you to keep in FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What that means? It means that there is a strategy of using fear, uncertainty, and doubt against Bitcoin. There are even criticisms that Bitcoin is a threat to the planet because it uses too much energy, and we already demystified this in the episode number 7 of the Money Arata series. Another FUD accuses Bitcoin of supporting financial speculation, which only serves to increase the wealth of the people who are already rich. We also clarified this FUD in the Money Arata series, particularly in the episode number 17. Here we're telling you how Bitcoin saved lives in countries facing crisis or wars, such as Venezuela or Afghanistan. And there's still a lot more FUD that we will continue to clarify in the future episodes. Bitcoin is already in a very advanced stage of development. At this stage, Bitcoin does not compete with you for graphics cards or other components that you will be using to play or to do some work. Now that you're sure that Bitcoin is not your enemy, you can take this opportunity to learn about the advantages that Bitcoin and financial technology are providing you. The first step is to acquire knowledge, and to help you, we've created a very structured guide in our training, Diamond Hands. The training is very simple and easy to put into practice, taking you step by step from the basic concepts to more advanced use of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. You can access now the course Diamond Hands by visiting arata.se/Diamond Hands.